Hey, how's it going, everyone? Sinister of the gaming section bringing you another interview with a dev. Well, like I said, I'm your boy Sinister hosting. And of course, before we begin, hey, be sure to hit that like button if you enjoy our content. With that out of the way, I'm gonna let my guest introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Bill from Rhinostar Games. I'm one of the developers on Porcupine's Fate. How's it going?
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, what got you into gaming?
I've been playing games since I was a kid. My dad owned a hobby shop and had a couple of arcades, and I just fell in love with Berserk. My brother was into Dungeons and Dragons and got me into that, and I've just been gaming ever since then.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because kind of the same way. Like my brother, he got me into gaming, so I can basically
Yeah.
follow his footsteps. And like I said, like those old games like Berserk and Frenzy, that got
hmm
me into it. But other than that, like any other favorite games other than Berserk, growing up.
My favorite games right now are like Silent Hill 2, Half Life series. That's kind of the what inspired this game. My son, he played Silent Hill, and he's like, I want to make a game like this, but I want to make it with robots. And I'm like, okay, well, let's come up with a plot and come up with some ideas. And then while we were thinking of things and putting it together, and he started making the game, I'm like, you should play Half Life. So, well, the first thing we did was get Orange Box, and he played Half Life 2. And then from there, um, we ended up getting Half Life off Steam, and he's got really inspired by that.
That's cool. Yeah, like I said, like Half Life is one of the OG games out there. I mean,
Oh
especially
yeah,
when the second one came out, that's been like one of my favorites since.
yeah. Well, I want to say Porcupine's Fate is closer to the first Half Life, and the sequel to it, they'll come out years and years from now, is going to be closer to Half Life 2 because it's going to be more outdoor environments.
Okay. First off, like, where did the name Rhinostar come from?
Um, it's funny. We a long time ago we bought this light up plush for him, so that when he'd wake up in the middle of the night, he could go to the bathroom, and he turns on and it shows stars and stuff in the on the ceiling, and he called it Rhino Star because it looks like a dinosaur or something, and I don't know. He just gave it that name. So
So that's cool. All right. Just getting into Porcupine's Fate itself. Like, did you or your son come up with the idea? Like, or was it both?
he started out with just the general idea for it, and then I helped him flesh it out quite a bit. Um, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why the character was called a porcupine. The robots in it.
Mhm.
Um, he made up a movie in Blender where this robot was basically the protagonist and called it a porcupine. And we just always thought about it looks kind of creepy and but also kind of like something that you could see kind of purchasing like a consumer robot because
Uh
it's
huh.
not humanoid. It doesn't unless you look at it a certain way, it's not exactly creepy, but it can be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like after seeing the trailer of it a little bit, I got a vibe like from like Fear, one of the Fear games, like
Yeah.
that dark eerie feeling about it. Of course, being in a building, kind of throwing a little Die Hard and stuff like that, but just minus the terrorists.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were going for is fear. Silent Hill, just for the creepy kind of. It, once you start reading the notes and you get into what's happened to the survivors in this building, it gets really melancholy and just kind of creepy and sad, and there's a bit of tension. He's done a what I think is a phenomenal job with the sound effects and the sound design in it.
Oh,
There's a lot of like cello and like really um, like nails on a chalkboard kind of shrieking cello sounds that some of the robots make, and basically everything that all of the sounds that they make there's a reason for it. They communicate with each other wirelessly with something that sounds like a wired modem,
Oh,
and you can record sounds into them. And since they've recorded things, they play it back to freak people out, basically, to cause fear and cause you to make mistakes so that they can get you.
okay. For those out there, like, can you probably explain the plot a little bit without giving away too much?
Well, this company called Marsh Industries creates a lot of both consumer and military grade products, including a AI kind of neuronet brain. Um, but they make all kinds of products. One day, everybody in the building just disappears. Their loved ones don't hear from them. They try to contact them and can't get a hold of them. The police try to go to investigate, but they have a state of the art security system and no one can get in. And this group called the agency, which they so secretive they don't have a name. They call themselves the agency. They spend 2 weeks trying to crack the code to get into this building, and they send in you, the special agent, and just for a reconnaissance mission. But then you get trapped in there and you can't leave, and you go further and further into it. And that's basically it. You're trying to piece together what happened. If there are any survivors, you're trying to rescue them. And you've been tasked with retrieving the schematics for the AI brain and just trying to figure out what's behind what becomes very quickly, obviously, like a robot uprising or robots, attacking people.
Okay,
You're
that's
not
cool.
sure if, yeah, you're not sure if like it's someone is controlling them or if they've gained sentience or what happened. And so there's a bit of mystery to a lot of things in it.
Okay. I know you mentioned your son using Blender. Was there anything else like that you used to help develop it? Like,
I mean, he works in Unreal, he's using Unreal for this game, um, and with FL Studio for the music. He records a lot of sound effects with what is it called, Audacity.
uh huh.
Um, and yeah, he does some of the graphics in Blender. He's still learning that though, so they kind of look a little rudimentary, but it gets the job done. Other than paying a bunch of money for models that we don't have.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, because like I said, like the first person feel like, oh, okay, yeah, because like the presentation with this audio and going things in first person. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What's the gameplay like? I mean, we know it's first person,
Yeah,
but like anything else on the gameplay to explain, to those out there interested?
yeah. It fluctuates between being a shooter and being like a puzzle game, kind of like I said, Silent Hill.
Hmm.
It's it never throws too many things at you at once, but you have to think on your feet, and you
Hmm.
have to kind of use your own reasoning power to figure things out because everything in here, the only thing that's moving is trying to kill you,
Right.
and so you can't just go into video game logic and rely on everything that you see. Um, but it's shooter. It's got puzzle elements. You pick up stuff, and you have to find messages, and there's just a lot of different stuff. And it's expanding too. And in chapter two, we have one section that's an on rail shooter.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, we're trying a lot of different things.
Well, that's cool. Speaking of that, like, how many chapters does this game gonna have?
We're planning 6 chapters. The first one is free. We basically, I base that off of like the old shareware stuff.
Right.
And then the next chapters are going to be paid DLC. Starting with chapter 2 will be $2, and then chapter 3 will be $3. So in the end, if you buy all the chapters, it's a $20 game. Chapter 2 is going to be twice as long as the first chapter and have twice as many things to do in it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're really trying stuff like that. We've got ideas for, like in one level you might operate a forklift. You're going to have to do a lot of sneaking and hiding from things and all kinds of different stuff. I don't want to get too much into it until
Right.
it happens and it comes out, but
Right. Yeah, because
stuff.
a game like this, will you see it on Steam or Epic Store or one
We
of
have
those?
it on Steam and itch.io right now. We're looking at other venues as well, but Steam's been working pretty well. I do all the marketing for the game, but it's just through like Twitch and Instagram and Facebook and I mean Twitch is or not Twitch, Twitter. Twitter's been a huge help for us. It's really where you can interact with people that like to play games, that like whatever genre your game is. There's people out there that like that and are interested in that. There's other indie developers, and just about every day it's supporting each other and sharing tweets between like I said, developers, streamers, and just game players. So it's been pretty great.
I mean, yeah, it's always a good platform out there. Like, going through social media just to get it out there and get the word of mouth. And it's always good to have like
Yeah.
like-minded, folks that have the same ideas as you and, like have like common ground just to, get your name out there.
Yeah, and it's been a huge help for when we have YouTubers play our game, record a video of themselves playing it. We can see what works, what's not working. We pinpoint bugs that way too. It's really difficult when you're making a game to play it in a different way and find bugs that you would normally not see because you're thinking, well, this is what you do here.
All
You
right.
know.
Oh yeah, you got to forgive the background noise because my daughter in the background.
Oh, it's all good, man. Father too, I understand.
Yeah. But other than that, like for the first chapter, do you do patches, like like a test run to see? I mean, just like
Well,
are you
we're updating it all the time. I think we've put out like 5 or 6 different updates. We've improved the fighting, the battle mechanic in it, to make it more dynamic. Put a little bit more challenge in it. Um, we've put in things to kind of direct players a little bit better
right?
because we don't want people just stumbling around in the dark. Their battery for their flashlight runs out. They
Hmm.
don't know what to do. They can't get
Right.
anywhere in the game. So we've really tried to, without being too obvious.
Hmm.
Um, the game is kind of meant to be like, I mean, a modern example would be like a Souls-like game or a
Right.
Contra or something like that, where you have to play it and get into the groove of it, and then you get good at it.
Right.
Instead of just you pick it up and you play it to the end in one sitting. It really is something that you need to save often and replay sections and think about what's going on and think about you know and not think about like oh the developer and the developer's ideas, but think about real life and what
Hmm.
you know what could be behind some of the strange things that go on in the game.
Well, speaking of that, since you already have like your gaming inspirations, like there's like anything in real life that kind of that you want to throw in the game, or possibly save it for the future DLC.
I mean, we don't put too much from real life, except we want to try to be um, based around like an actual laboratory, an actual development company that makes products and makes scientific discoveries and things like that. Um, and we try to just, um, you know, think about real life, and we've
Mm-hmm.
got the first chapters based around the first floor of a building, and it would all be, customer service and stuff like that. And you get, the manufacturing section. You in one chapter you'll get research and development in another. There's in chapter two, um, there's a animal research laboratory, and all of the animals have been put to sleep. And you realize as you read the posters and stuff that
Right.
after they're done with whatever study they're doing, they put the animals to sleep and they order more animals.
Right.
And the robots have just done that early. So it's kind of a comment on that. Um, so we put just little things like that in there to touch on real world issues and things that happen, you know, in the real world, but
Right.
it's not something that could happen. If this was happening in real life, it would, there's no such thing as a robot uprising, but there's
No.
people using robots for evil
Right.
things like drones. We have drones in the game later on, but they're more like consumer style drones, but
Right.
weaponized, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because like what I get from the trail, like for uh, in the building itself, usually you got like those companies behind us, like, hey, there's like a little secret seed behind it, like, oh,
Right.
things like that. I mean, I'm sure that's like one of the inspirations you can throw in there. Like, I mean, of course, the inspiration is always all
Yeah.
around. It just depends where you look, and things like sometimes they'll hit you in the face, sometimes they hit you later. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a good idea to throw in there.
That's a really great observation. It's a really great observation because there's a lot of the mystery in it is exactly what they're getting up to and what they're doing and the kinds of things that they're researching, um, and the things that they're hiding from the public. There's some really strange. There's a desk that's like melted in on itself,
Wow.
and you wonder what happened. And you read some of the emails, and they're talking about an accident with what do you call it, like a research, like product. I can't think of the name of it now. Where you ask the public
Hmm.
to test marketing stuff for
Right.
you, and they had an accident that they covered up, and it is actually what led to the creation of these robots as well as some of the other inventions that they've made.
Oh, yeah, it's one
That's
of those like one of those like, oh, you want good publicity, but but something like that you don't want to get it out. So
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of stuff like that in there, and we try to, because I'm a big lover, being a dad, I'm a big lover of dad jokes.
yeah,
And so the first chapter called Downfall has two meanings. The next chapter we're calling In the Dark, and that's
right,
actually got three different meanings. That in some ways is almost going to be funny when you find out what it
right.
means in connection to that. Same
I
way,
mean,
Downfall, when you get to the end, it's going to be pretty funny that it's called that.
oh, okay, yeah, because it's kind of fun, like when you're playing like indie games, like like they throw little Easter eggs in there, like
Mhm.
some could be hidden in plain sight, and the other is like, oh, what is that? Like, I know a lot of things like that. I mean, usually like games like that, like you go through it the first time, like, oh man, there's something you missed, and probably
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
playthrough, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like you trying to get the meaning of it, like,
And we're going to be adding stuff to chapter one that's going to be a lot like that, where
hmm
um, but we're trying to get through chapter two before we add too much stuff to more to chapter one. But
right,
there's going to be where if you try to leave the building several times, it'll
hmm
eventually ask you, do you really want to leave? And then you'll get a bad ending for doing that.
oh, okay,
There's another part where one of the robots has set up a trap to blow up the ceiling. If you stack things up, you'll be able to climb up into the ceiling and open the door and go in right into chapter two, basically skipping most of chapter one.
hmm
That kind of stuff we're adding to the game eventually. and there's a lot of like little Easter eggs. We've hidden messages in there. You make luminol, and then you can spray it on different surfaces, and sometimes you'll find weird like cryptic messages and coded messages. Um, there's one of the things that we got from Silent Hill. I don't remember if it was Silent Hill 1 or 2, but there's this suitcase that has a whole bunch of locks on it.
Right.
And you have to solve all these puzzles to find all the keys to unlock it. And then when you do, there's like a tuft of hair inside of it. Just like the weirdest, most ridiculous thing that you would use to, all these locks to hide, right? We had to tone down the puzzle for it quite a bit, and kind of, because we don't want people to get too upset.
Right.
Yeah.
Rage quitters.
Yeah, I originally wanted to make it so that there was a much longer puzzle to opening. There's a trunk in there, and when you open it, there's just a bunch of experimental food stuff. So, and they all have just terrible dad jokes. Like one of them is called SPEM, SPEM, and it stands for scientifically produced edible meat. Just that kind of stuff. But originally there was not going to be any kind of use to opening that trunk at all. And now there's a code inside of it that you need to unlock something. But originally it was just going to be, you did a whole bunch of stuff to find some food that you can't use.
Well, okay.
But it's the most important thing to the people that are stuck in there and trapped in there,
Okay, that's all good. I mean, yeah, because I never you mentioned difficulties. Like for beginners, like do you have like a beginning mode, like normal or hard, like for those who like for veterans?
We've been talking about that, but that would have to be in the future. It's just a lot of work to put together something like that.
Right.
And really, the difficulty is generally not with like fighting stuff. It's just in solving puzzles and thinking through things. There's stuff that you can't trust, messages that you find all the time and stuff like that.
Right.
And you just have to, realize that you can't trust everything that you read.
Right.
It's just that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things where we're slowly making the puzzles easier to figure out. Originally, we just didn't want to have a lot of just too much like hand holding or anything like that. But
Right.
we realized that, people are not going to be in the same headspace as you are when they play the game. They're not gonna, they can't read your mind. So you got to kind of telegraph things a little bit, So we're working on making things a little bit easier to understand, so you're not just stumbling around in the dark.
Okay. As for chapter 2, how's the progress on that? When do you expect to have that out?
Probably in about 6 months. We finished the first. You start off in the parking garage, and there's a boss fight. And then we've got the animal lab. We're still working on that, but we've put most of that together.
Okay.
But that's a very small part of the chapter. There's a whole section of like laboratories for research and design, research and development, I mean. And there's going to be lifts that go down pretty far below like the parking garage and below the ground. And at the bottom of that is where we're going to have the rail shooter section. You're riding a lift, and these robots start breaking through the ceiling, and you have to shoot them and stuff.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's nice to like throw a little variety in there, and so that way, like it doesn't always feel like the same. You're doing the same thing or it looks the same.
We want to surprise people as often as we can, and we try to put as much stuff like that into the game as we can. To, there's going to be parts where you ride vehicles to do different things, and there's going to be parts where you go underwater because they're researching uh, robots that can dive and you know do different things like that. So they have a giant tank of water, and you have to go in that and swim around and fight them underwater and stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. Before we get close to the end, what do you what was like the most challenging thing have you ever done with this game? Like either you or your son, like when was working on this.
I mean, it's always challenging. Every time you put out an update, you think that you've found all the bugs. Either you didn't find them all, or the stuff that you added created more bugs, and so it's just always a work in progress. Um, the gameplay's pretty great, I think, but there's every single time I play it, I'm like, oh, I got to fix that. Oh, we got to fix that. Oh, there's, you know um, and just trying to get things done in a timely manner. It's not
Right.
easy. He's going to school,
Right.
um, but I work on my own games as well. So we're going to have a lot of different things coming out in the future.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Speaking of that, that was gonna be my next question. I like. Do you have like any other games outside of this one that you plan on working on?
yeah, I primarily work in RPG Maker.
Okay.
I've been doing that for a good 10 years or more. I think the first one that I worked in was the one for the PlayStation.
Okay.
Right now, I've got a game I'm making in RPG Maker MZ, and hopefully that'll be out in a few months. I've done a lot of like game jams, but I'm terrible at game jams. It takes me forever to think of something, and then I try to do things that are too complicated. And so
Right.
everything that I've got for game jams are all like broken nonsense, but there's always a good idea in there. There's always some good writing in there. And so I like, I got to salvage this. I got to do something with this. So I was just playing some of them, and one of them I was just dying laughing over. It's meant to be a comedy to
Right.
some degree, and it was just so funny. I'm like, I have to do something with this. I can't just let this die.
Right.
So that's what I've been working on. It's called the Twin Stars.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you have like an idea like what's the story about a little bit like for what you done on
Yeah.
this?
You play as a star, and the moon goddess and the stars, I think it's like every 20 years, they come down to Earth to celebrate and have a big party and everything. And this time, the moon goddess was kidnapped,
Hmm.
and the stars have been scattered and probably kidnapped, or something's happened to them, or they were killed. And so she sends out the as much of her power as she can use to free you, and then she says, "Here's four people that are about to be killed. Um, go, whoever your personality works the best with. Go to them and see if they'll let you use their body, and then you can free the other stars, and you can get together and free me." Um, and so you pick between four different characters,
Oh, okay.
um, and they each have fairly different play styles. I don't want to say exactly because I haven't gotten to this point yet, and
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to. But the idea was one character would be like an RPG mixed with a shmup.
Oh, okay.
One would be a tactical RPG, and in that one you don't actually like kill anything. You use your magic to snap them out of it, because the other thing is, these guys have released this poisonous cloud that's made everybody become angry and turn into monsters. Animals are changing into horrific creatures that are attacking people, and so you use your magic to bring them out of that. One of them is like a knight, and he has like Super Mario RPG, where if you hit the button at the right time, you can do a double attack and stuff. And then the other guy is like a sword fencer, so he does a bunch of different attacks, and he has where he uses what they call guts in this to, he gets angry or he gets like frustrated or whatever, and so he just goes off, and that's his abilities.
All right. Well, that sounds cool. Hoping get a little updates and things like that because I mean, see, you got a good thing going right there.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying. We want to get the studio off the ground and get it putting out games as frequently as possible.
All right. Oh well, then. So that concludes this interview. Like before we go, I'll want you to tell everybody out there where they can find you at.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter as Rhinostar Games, all one word. We're on Instagram and Facebook. You can download the game if you look up Porcupine's Fate on Steam or itch.io. If you're looking it up on itch.io, though, you have to have your settings set to be able to find. They don't call it mature games. I forget how they say, like not safe for work or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a horror game and there's a certain amount of blood and gore to it. So you have to have your settings correctly or it won't show up in the search engine.
Yeah, I already posted the link, so everybody can check it out.
Cool. Thanks, appreciate that.
You're welcome. As like I said, this is your boy Sinister of the Gamers section, and stay tuned. Like we got more interviews set up for the rest of the week. Done by myself and KANO. Like I said, stay tuned. But other than that, folks, this concludes it. Hope to see y'all tomorrow. And like I said, hit that bell for notifications for the next gaming interviews and other content. Other than that, peace out, y'all.
Thanks.